Hey guys, really excited about today's video. This is my giant Monstera, which has become quite the monstrous beast. Now, normally I film my videos in the morning to get the nice bright morning light. This video is being filmed a little bit later in the day, early evening, so the lighting conditions are a little bit different, so you'll have to excuse those. Now, I love everything about my Monstera. However, it wasn't always this big and this scary. I actually picked up this plant, this exact plant, in the early summer of 2020 at a Costco for $29, believe it or not. And I did a horrible video on the care tips for this Monstera, as well as creating a moss pole in the very early days of my YouTube channel. Pay an arm and a leg for one of these things. Now, I bought this guy, he's quite large, about 2 feet tall, at Costco for $29, which is a really great price for a Monstera. So it's definitely about time to revive the Monstera Deliciosa on my YouTube channel. Now that this Monstera has grown free and wild, it's time to propagate and correctly train a cutting to grow up a stake or moss pole. So if you're into all of that, stay tuned for everything you need to know about caring for a Monstera Deliciosa and how to properly propagate and repot your new plant. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm Tyler, and if you like what you're seeing or you find this video to be useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, or better yet, you can subscribe to my channel. This huge Monstera brings so much joy to my living room, and it really does create that amazing sort of tropical jungle feeling. I can't even imagine not having this beautiful tropical plant. Native to Mexico and other parts of Central America, the Monstera Deliciosa is known as the climbing evergreen. Now, I don't know who's still calling this the Swiss cheese plant, but the split leaves on this plant get so much better over time, as you probably already know. Before jumping into propagation and repotting, let's cover all of the basic care tips that you need to know for the Monstera Deliciosa. In terms of lighting, you really need to give your Monstera the best indirect light that you have. Don't be afraid to move your houseplants around to really give them and ensure that they're getting the light that they want and need. Especially as the seasons change, I often find myself moving my houseplants from one spot to another. Now, I'll admit, sometimes I do like to move my Monstera into a different spot so it can get some direct dapple morning sunlight, especially after a few gray days where it's been really rainy, or in the winter months when it's just not getting that nice, bright, indirect light that it wants. I do water my Monstera quite frequently, especially in the growing season, the summer months. I will wait for the topsoil to dry out, dry to the touch, before rewatering. Now, watering is usually a function of how much light and the other conditions that your plant is receiving. So for me, in the growing season, I'm usually watering my Monstera about once a week. Now, I honestly don't think about fertilizing my Monstera too often. I do give this plant a well-balanced diluted liquid fertilizer periodically in the spring and summer, and those are really the basic care tips. Now, I'm gonna come and circle back around to soil mix and soil composition when I'm talking about propagation and repotting cuttings that you take from your parent plant. If you're interested in more content like this, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up or leave a comment down below. All right, let's get into how to propagate your Monstera Deliciosa. When you have a larger plant like this, like I do, it's easier, well, it's relatively easy to take a cutting or two based on just the sheer size of the plant. If you have a smaller plant, plant, it might not be a good idea to propagate. You might want to wait till it gets a little bit bigger. Now, in order to take a cutting, you basically want to find a leaf or two, with corresponding stems, obviously, that have a couple, 2 or 3 aerial roots that look nice and healthy on the plant, and that's kind of the section that you want to take a cutting from. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, be sure to use a freshly cleaned pair of shears to cut off your cutting. So as you can see, I've taken a cutting with 2 leaves, and there's 2 really nicely developed aerial roots, and this is really important when you are propagating a Monstera by using cuttings. Now, you're gonna want to place your cutting in a vase of water so that the aerial roots are submerged in water. You're gonna wanna place it somewhere where the foliage is gonna get access to nice, bright, indirect lighting, and you're gonna need to switch out the water probably every couple of days. Then you get to sit back and watch your cutting develop some healthy roots. Now, here is a cutting I took just over a month ago. This cutting had 3 aerial roots on it, and you can see there is a ton of new root growth, and this is exactly what you're waiting for, and what you want to see is roots coming from the aerial roots, and once those are a couple inches in length, that is when it is time, or it's an appropriate time to repot this in some soil mix. Now, here is a photo after about 2 weeks that from the time since the cutting was taken, and you can just see that the roots are just slowly coming in, and that took about 2 weeks time. So before we can pot up our cutting, we need to talk about what soil mix and what soil composition works best for the Monstera Deliciosa. These plants need a well-draining and slightly acidic soil mix, so I'm going to be using some bark and a little bit of perlite, as well as a lot of peat moss, and that's going to, the bark and the perlite is what gives you the drainage, and the peat moss is what helps keep the pH level where you want it. Now, I am going to add a little bit of coco coir as well, just to make this mix a little bit more dynamic. To really show me some love, click the bell for alerts and notifications for future content. All right, so I've potted up my cutting that has the well-developed roots on it into about a 7 or 8 inch nursery pot. Now, I'm going to be using a bamboo stake to start, but I will be, as this progresses and grows, and I increase the pot size, I will switch over to a proper moss pole. And also, in the meantime, I've used some Velcro tape to attach the cutting to the bamboo stake. And I've obviously gone ahead and included my bark and peat moss soil mix. So as you can see, this is what it's in and what it looks like. Lots of drainage holes at the bottom. Now, I'm going to be putting all of this into this beautiful woven basket that I found, and because there's no lining in this whatsoever, I am going to need some sort of saucer. So I have a plastic saucer here that will catch any excess water once it's been watered. However, pro tip, you do need to remove any excess water that that drains into the saucer, because Monsteras don't like to sit in water like that. So it is really important to remove any excess water from that drains through the soil mix, through the roots, and ends up in the saucer. As for the cutting that I just took, I've placed this in a vase with some water. Now, you want something with developed aerial roots, but maybe not something with an aerial root that's a foot or 2 long. Now, I've managed to find a vase that kind of fits everything nicely, but something to consider. Now I'm gonna put this in a bright, sunny spot that's receiving only bright, indirect light, and over the next 4 or 5 weeks, this will develop some nice roots. And again, you wanna let those become 3, 4, 5 inches long before potting it up in the desired soil mix. Well, that's it for me. Oh yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up or hit that subscribe button. Miss you guys already. Until the next one.